and then some call me a Hafiz. Those who know me since I was little. Little background: I'm a software developer, full stack, and also in the military. Have a lovely family, and then I just love programming, and running businesses. And I love money, by the way. So those 3 points. All right,
What's the last one? You love
money,
what?
money.
Oh, money. Oh,
You can't miss that. Come
I
on.
just wanted to see, make sure I heard it right.
Yep, yep.
Okay, good.
All right, so I'm gonna share my screen, and then we're gonna get started. Make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Can you guys let me know when you can see? Can you guys see?
Yes, we can see.
Cool. So before we start the meeting, I'm just gonna talk briefly about what this meeting is gonna be about, and then what to expect. And then we can get started. So first, it's we're gonna discuss the project that we're gonna do, and then what we're gonna build it with, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about Kotlin, and then we're gonna present a system diagram, and then we're gonna talk about OCR. You guys will find out what that is shortly, and then we're gonna talk about how to extract menu items, and then so on and so on, and build the app. So this part right here is building the app. All right, so let's get started. So about the project. So this project actually introduces just Kotlin, and talks about the benefits. And it's also a project that allows you to actually see list view items in play, in Android, and how to build like a minimalistic mobile app to do some cool stuff. So the stuff that we're going to use in this project, we're going to use OCR. OCR is it's like an image processing library that the Google team built. And if you guys are familiar with it, you just take a picture and then it extracts the text from the picture. We're going to use ChatGPT to also process the text that will be extracted from the image. And then after that, we're just going to display them as menu items. And then we're going to try to make it as clean as possible. All right, so what are we building this app with? We're going to build it with Kotlin. That's the platform that we're going to use. And by the way, we have another presentation about Java, building applications with Java. So if you missed that, you might also want to take a look at that. And then, so the ML kit, which is for the OCR, that's for the text recognition. We have XML layout, but for this presentation, we're not going to do any XML, because last presentation, I believe Ben asked a question about Jetpack, whatever you call it. And then, so we're going to use that instead of XML, but
Yeah.
we will show the XML part of it.
Jetpack Compose.
Yeah. So, and then we have coroutines. So this is a very powerful asynchronous tool that you can use to make, calls or run background services. And then it's really powerful. Like, I personally used it, and then I try to compare it with using threads, and the difference were like about 5 seconds different, from running like 3 API calls using UI threads and versus using coroutines. And then, I got like 5 seconds back, and that was a lot. All right. So why Kotlin? So the reason why we actually, why a developer will use Kotlin is because of a few things, one of them being that Kotlin is, concise. It's not like in Java, where you have a lot of boilerplates, and a lot of code. And here is an example. So for example, in Java, this is how you can create a class, a user class, and then this is a constructor right here, and then you have like the elements inside it, and then you can call them. In Kotlin, all you have to do is just declare a data class of the user, and then you can assign whatever you want to assign as parameters. And then those will include the getters, the setters, and all that. So you don't have to worry about, as you guys can see, it's already short and it's, easy to understand. Any questions there before we move on? All right. So null safety is another benefits of using Kotlin. What is null safety? So in Java, if you come from the Java world, you would notice that there is a lot of if statement for checking if a variable is null before you do anything or an object is null. Otherwise, it will crash, right? So with Kotlin, what they do, they allow you to simply just use the question mark, just like in TypeScript, right? And then that way, it will first check if the element or the object is null before it try to access its parameter. So that makes it much more simpler. If it was in Java, we would have to declare and then we'll have to create an if statement here. If name equal null, then exit. And then we will go below that and then we will do it. Get the length from the name. And as you guys can see, this is much, much shorter and cleaner. So coroutines, this is the synchronous programming tool that I talked about briefly. So there is a few ones. So global scope is what we're going to use. There is also other ones. We can search it up. It's like a bunch of them. But just for the sake of the presentation, we're going to use global scope, which is simple and precise. You just declare it, and then this is how you update the UI when you're running background services using coroutines. And what this is going to do, whatever you're going to do here, it's going to run it in the background. So it's not going to stop your UI from working. So let's say you're using the app and then you're scrolling and all that. This is going to be fetching the data while you're scrolling without having like lags or any of that. And then once it's done, then it will update the UI with the data, whatever you declared it. And then that's on the main thread. So any UI, I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but any UI update has to be done on the main thread. Because that's where they live, that's where they reside. You can't do it in the background, so you have to always come back to the main thread to update UIs. All right, so and then extensions. So extensions, as the name mentions, it's just extensions, right? And then it allows you to add certain functionalities without having to like write a lot of code. For example, this is a string capitalization thing. All we're doing, we're going to add an extension to the string class, and this is a built-in class, by the way. So, and then we're just going to add the extension to it, and then we will define what we want to do with that extension. And then very simple, very powerful. If we were to do that in Java, we will have to write a whole function for it. Now, comparing Java with Kotlin, right? So this is just a table to show what we discussed. So we have, it's concise. We don't have to rely on a lot of boilerplate codes. And then the null safety is one of them. The asynchronous handling, its interoperability, allows you to seamlessly integrate, with Java. So what that means here, you can literally just build your whole app in Kotlin, and then if you want, you can just add some Java codes to it, and it won't break it. And then also you can also convert Java codes into Kotlin. That's super easy. And then it's cross-platform, right? But one thing to notice is that Kotlin focuses on Android, the Android ecosystem. That's what they build it for. Although it's cross-platform, it will give you more power when you're building, apps and all that for Android, if in the Android ecosystem, while Java is everywhere, right? Including desktop, Raspberry Pis, you name it, anything. I personally program in both a program in Java and a program in Kotlin, depending on the project. For example, if I have a project that is really, really complex, that requires a lot of, moving stuff, instead of actually trying to build it, and then also need to be built for desktop and Android or whatever, then I will do Java. I will go with Java. Why? Because it makes it easier to just port the code over. I just built one code in desktop, and then if I'm ready to build the mobile app, I would build the mobile app, and then TV, whatever. If it's just focused on Android, and then I just need to be lazy, I would just do it in Kotlin. Or if I want something that looks really nice and clean, I will do it in Kotlin. So yeah, any questions there?
Wow, this is you compressed a lot of information in like 2 seconds.
I know, right? Yeah,
Oh,
I'm trying to save the time from last, no more 4 hours meetings.
no, it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I mean, now I have 3 questions. I had two
Mhm,
at first. So the first question is, um, like you mentioned coroutines.
mhm.
Can you maybe expand a little bit on how coroutines are different than threads?
Yeah, I
No,
can.
that would be my first question. The second one, I almost forgot the second one. Um, oh, I just had it in my mind. Okay, so let's jump to the third one. What do you think of Kotlin multi-platform?
Okay. All right. So let's start with the first question, right? Which is coroutine. So the difference between coroutine and the threads. Is anybody here familiar with RxJX? It's in the TypeScript world. Anybody? If
Yeah,
not, I can just talk about it.
yeah, I'm
So
familiar with it,
okay,
but
yeah.
C sharp,
So
C# days.
yeah. So RxJX is a tool that, I don't know why I'm talking about RxJS, why your question is about coroutine, right? But I'm just going to give a brief description of what it does too. It's a tool that allows you to actually do a lot of stuff, including fork joining, API calls. And what does that mean? Let's say I have 5 API calls, and then one of them relies on, like 4 of them relies on one, but the other 4 do not rely on each other. So they can run asynchronously, and not have to wait for each other. With UI threads, in order for you to do that, you have to create separate threads. Because if you create one thread and then you make the API calls, they all will make the call within that same thread. So if you have 5 API calls, what you would do, you would create a first thread, and then let's say to pull the users. And then once you have the user, then let's say we're looking for the token from that user. Then you will create 4 separate UI threads. I mean, not UI threads, 4 separate threads to make the API calls separately. You know, and that's how it used to be with Java. And then it used to be, what we had, right? It used to be beautiful and it works well and all that because the threads don't have to wait for each other. But even with that, they're slower. With coroutine, the way it works, you can literally define everything. So you see, I will have global here. You can make all your calls here. And then if you want one call to wait for another, you will just add a wait. And then that will tell, coroutine that, okay, you know what? The first call that you're making, you want to wait for that. And then once you have that, then you're going to make the other calls. And the other calls don't now rely on each other. So just make all of them at once. And then, they will just send the calls and then it will be super fast. I hope I answered the question. Because I know there was a lot in there too.
Yeah. So okay, maybe if you want, I can jump in and expand the I mean a separate direction. So essentially, coroutines and threads are tightly related in the sense that um, I mean, if we zoom out a little bit, when we have an operating system, whether it's Android or any desktop or server, the operating system has allows for programming languages to spawn threads, right? But those threads are very heavy. You know, they take a lot of quite some significant resources on at the operating system level. So that means that if you are building something which is highly concurrent, meaning that there's a lot of things happening at the same time, you might run out of threads to spawn, and then the whole system will slow down, right? So the main difference between those threads and coroutines is that the same way that threads leverage the operating system, coroutines leverage a given thread. So for one thread, you can have maybe hundreds of thousands of coroutines, right? So the coroutines use a single thread as a use threads as vehicles, and then the thread themselves use the OS as a vehicle. That's kind of like how it's structured.
Yeah, thank you. That definitely adds up to it on the hardware level and memory level. Any questions there? If not, all right, let's move to the multi-platform for Kotlin, right?
Oh, actually, before you jump to the multi-platform, I remember my second question. My second question was uh, if you can expand on the main thread or the UI threads versus the background threads. Yeah.
Okay, so UI thread versus the background threads. Okay, so the way to see that when you're running your app, there's only one thread that is running everything, which is the main thread. So all your function calls, everything. And then, since you mentioned memory and all that, so you can think of it as you have one, you know, global vehicle, one vehicle that actually just does everything, drives, steers, and all that. So now imagine that you're looking to do something that is not going to slow down the vehicle. So let's say you want to make a phone call, you know, it shouldn't slow down the vehicle as long as you're not the driver or like you're using Bluetooth, right? So what you want to do, you want to outsource that. You want to take that out of the main thread, and then you want to run it in the background thread or something where it's just, it's still taking memory, but it's not taking memory, like it's not slowing down the main thread. And so what you would do, you would create a background service or background thread or whatever you want to use. And then that will run asynchronously. So it will run as at the same time as the main UI. And then let's say you making the phone call while you're driving. And then you want to make sure that once you're done with the phone call, you will know where you're going. So let's say I am a driver and then I'm going to see Ben, for example. I get on the road and then I'm driving. I don't want to, but I don't know where Ben address is. So I don't want to just wait. I know that it leaves, let's say, in Canada, right? And then, but I don't want to wait until it answers, give me the address before I start driving to Canada. I know my way to Canada. I just don't know his address. So I'm going to start driving and then I'm going to make the phone call. The phone call is now on a separate thread. It doesn't slow down the vehicle. It doesn't slow me down. And as soon as I hear back from Ben, then I'm going to be like, okay, all right, I have the address. Now I'm going to update the GPS. So now I have a precise location that I'm going to. And that will be updating the main thread. Did that help?
Yes, yes, but I also want to expand just a little bit, but
Go ahead.
related to what you just said.
Mhm.
So from what I know, you can double check by researching on that. But
Mhm.
from what I know is that when you have any screens, whether it's the cell phone screens, desktop, and so on and so on, you must be familiar with this idea of FPS, frames per second.
Mhm.
Sometimes when they release new Androids, they'll be like, "Oh, this one is powerful. It runs 120 hertz, something like that per second, right?"
Mhm.
And it has to do with uh, how the how the visible part of the UI is rendered into the screen. You know, there is a process that starts painting the UI from the top left of the screens to the bottom right, right? So imagine it's somebody with a pencil who can draw as fast as possible from top left to bottom right, 120 times per second.
Yeah.
Right. And there's only one single pencil. So if you stop the guy from painting the screen to have him do some other work, then the refresh rate will slow down. You might drop to 5 seconds, 10 hertz or something like that. And this will make for a non-responsive UI.
Yeah.
So for that reason, and it's not possible to have 2 or 3 pencils drawing at the same time either, right? So for that reason, it's better to not bother the guy responsible for drawing as fast as possible, you know, and do most of the heavy lifting behind the scenes, and only give him the new things to draw whenever it's ready. So
That's a good example. That I like that too. Thank you.
I have a, excuse me, quick question.
Yeah.
And sorry, I want to kind of go back to maybe I apologize if you already answered this or touched on this.
No
And
worries.
maybe I want to level set what actually are threads. Like what actually is a thread?
Okay, a thread is a separate vehicle that you can use to do stuff that like outside of another vehicle. That's it. That's the easy way to see it.
So
Just look at it as, you know, a separate vehicle. That's all it is. It's a
is it a
separate vehicle that, go ahead.
is it a process? Like is it like a process? You know, like in your Linux machine, you have like process running. Like should I understand that as a process?
Um,
no, if you want, I can jump in if you want.
okay, shoot.
Yeah, so as it's very simple. When you go to process monitor on your machine, whether it's Windows or Mac and so on, so you can observe your programs, right? You can
Yes.
see how much memory a single program takes, but there's another tab that refers to the CPU. Okay? And if I'm not mistaken, on that tab, you can also see how many CPUs you have. So if you have a quad core, you will see 4 threads, and then if it's hyper-threaded, you can see 4 additional virtual threads. I say CPUs, right? So those CPUs basically are related to the threads, because when you spawn a thread, it means that a CPU has to be free to do the work. You know, and per CPU, there's only so many threads that one CPU can handle at the same time. You know, so it's you can kind of see that so a thread would be like the space available at the CPU level to make progress with the task.
Got it.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yep. Just want to clarify that first. All right. Thanks.
Yep. I was trying to pull my task manager on Mac and show you, but to be honest, I don't even know how to get it on Windows.
There's another question.
Hi, it's not really a question. I just wanted to clarify to see if my understanding is amazing. So, yeah, lower my hand, cool. So in asynchronous programming, I presume that when you are running 2 functions at the same time, they are running on 2 threads. Am I right?
Say that again. You said function, and then you
in asynchronous programming, when you're running 2 functions simultaneously, they will run on 2 threads.
Yeah, they will run on separate threads.
That makes sense. Okay, I have a good understanding. Thank you. Right.
No, actually, not always. Sorry, not always, because okay. So when we're dealing with this area, right, the terms can be confusing. So what you were describing of running in parallel or at the same time, this is parallelism. The asynchronous part does not mean in parallel. So I can explain. Let's say there's a bouncer at the entrance of a bar, right? And there are two entrances. You know, he can jump back and forth from one line to the other to let people in after checking their IDs. You know, this will be an asynchronous process because the two lines make progress, right? Whereas the parallel part would mean that there will be one bouncer for each line, letting people in.
So two
But
bouncers.
this question is more about actually like the parallelism part of it, right? It's not like just running the same thread and then, you know, doing multiple stuff. And I'm confused with your answer, by the way. Can you clarify that?
Okay, so let's put it in something more concrete. Everyone is familiar with Node.js, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Node.js is single-threaded,
Mm-hmm.
but if you spawn a Node.js server, you can handle many users at the same time, asynchronously,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Because when, let's say, a user request requires a database operation,
Mm-hmm.
that operation gets placed into a queue in the background to wait for the database while the process moves on to the next request and then the next request and so on and so on.
Okay.
And the time it will go back and check if the previous operation was ready and then send back the response to the client, right? But it does all this on a single thread. So this is to the users, several things are happening at the same time, but asynchronously, like behind the scenes.
Yeah. All right. So thank you. So Nana, here is a simple way to describe it, right? So in asynchronous processes are run, you know, at this like they don't wait for each other. So in your case, your functions, right? When you're running both functions, one does not wait for another. They will both run. But like Ben said, which is great actually, you know, in certain programming platforms, right? Or whatever, they use single threads, but they still talk about asynchronous, and then you would think, okay, does it mean that it's in a separate thread? No, in this case, it's just that, you know, you don't have to wait for another, and then that's a great example, like the database call, or like when you're making multiple API calls, right? It would not be fair or good for your API to wait for one user to get their data back before they start doing another thing. So, you know, you want to actually run them, you know, asynchronously. Yep. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you so much.
Yeah. But in this case, right, in what we're talking about here, the threads, you know, when you're running two separate threads asynchronously, that means they're all, each one is going to be on a separate one. It's not going to be in one single thread. All right. What was your last question? Oh yeah, it was about multi-platform with Kotlin.
Yes.
Yeah. As I mentioned initially, right? The only time I would use Kotlin is when I'm building for the Android world. I have not used it for anything else. I know it's there, you know, but I already use Angular for, you know, for all my web, you know, apps. I used Fast API, Node.js, Python for my, you know, API background and APIs. And then I use Java mainly for, you know, desktop and what do you call that? Even mobile TVs and all that. And then, you know, I have a lot of projects. But I would say when it comes to multi-platform, this is the language I will always go with. I know it's powerful, but I just don't have the time to, you know, do the full switch yet. So I'll rather just, because, you know, this allows me to do a lot. And then, like, you know, as I'm talking, right, there's a project that we built someday night that, you know, is for an advertisement company. And then everything is built in Java. It runs on Raspberry Pis. It runs on any other device out there. It runs on TVs and all that. And then we can deploy it like this really quick. Can I redo it using Kotlin? Yeah, but it will require a lot because the tool is pretty complex. So, if you guys want, I can probably try to do another presentation on the multi-platform part using Kotlin versus Java. But for now, I would say this is my baby right here.
Yes, please do it.
Okay, yeah. So it will push me to try to convert some codes into Kotlin. So all right. So I will let you guys know when we can do that. All right. So now let's talk about the fun stuff. Um this part now we're done with, the basic understanding of, Kotlin, Java, all that. So now we're going to talk about the project. So system diagram. So this is what the project is going to look like. And then let me just zoom out a little bit. Here we go. So you have a user that uploads an image, and then the user will choose an extraction method. In this case, it's just one, and then OCR will process the data, right? And then so this diagram needs to be updated. Yeah. So OCR will process the data, then pass it to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will do the processing and then pass it. So let me 1 second, please. Let me just update the diagram while I'm here on it. So BOCR. CD. Here we go. So OCR will process the data, and then it will pass it to ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT will now make the data look like make more sense, right? And then we will display the menu items. I know this is I just rumbled a little bit and then updated it. But any questions? Let me just make it smaller. It's just a diagram. It will make more sense once you guys start to see the code or like the app itself. All right. So if no questions, so what is OCR? OCR stands for optical character recognition, and it's a technology that actually is used to convert images, PDF, and other form file formats into text, like, and then you can edit and search those text data. How does it work? So you capture an image, and then the document is then scanned or photographed to produce a digital image, right? All this right here, we all know what it works, how it works. Then we do some pre-processing, and that includes cleaning the picture, the image, to make it more accurate, and then like adjust the brightness, the contrast, and removing noise. And after that, then it will try to recognize the text, and then the software will analyze the image to detect characters, words, and numbers. And then after that, it will output the data as as it was able to read it. Any questions? All right, pretty straightforward. Then we have the menu item extraction part. So this is where we're setting up the app. So this time I'm going to try to do something different, right? I'm going to try to actually build the app, as we present. That way, we can actually just see everything in place. So what I did, this is, what? Let me just start from zero. I was starting from creating the app, but so here, and we're going to open Android Studio. And then once we open it, then we have all the projects list and all that. So then we're going to create a new project. just empty activity. So that means we're gonna have like a main class and just a plain app. It's I'd always start there and then I just update it, whenever to remove or add whatever I need. So we're gonna go next, and then this app, let's just call it Mosaic Business App 2, app demo 2 because I have demo 1, and then because I had to make sure that the code runs before the meeting, right? So I have demo 1 that I created. And then, so when we do that, it's just going to, try to render the stuff. We're going to wait until, we see it as a valid Android app. And then while it's doing that, we're just going to wait. And then you can see the progress here. Okay, any questions so far while this is running? Okay.
Yeah, no question. But if you can bump up
The font.
Yeah, the font is really small.
Okay. How do you bump up the font on this thing? Let me see.
You can do Command Plus.
Yeah, I tried that. That's what I'm doing right now.
Oh.
Let's try to select outside. All right, let me just search it real quick.
I think you can also search within the IDE if you press Shift twice.
Or
Here.
Yeah, if you press Shift twice and then search like Zoom or something. Yeah, that's the shortcut, I think.
This one. Yeah. No, that's actually to Zoom. That's full screen.
Okay.
If you go to the view and just
Let's try it again. So zoom in ID. Here we go. This is it. And is that better?
Yeah, more.
maybe one.
What about now?
Yeah, maybe one more and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
All right. So let's drop this down, and then we're gonna go to project. Oh. Okay. And then just like when we, talked about the Java part, you have the manifest folder where you set up the app stuff, including the what do you call that? The imports. That's not the word I'm looking for. Hold on. Permissions. Here we go. Permissions. Where you set up the permissions for the app. For example, if you want to use Bluetooth, you want to use internet and all that, you can set them up there. This is just describing the app level changes, including your icon, and then the app name, which is a label, and then you have your activities. So activities are just pages in the Android world. And then you have the intent filters, which are used to navigate between activities and pass data in order. So beside that, you have the Kotlin folder plus Java. As you guys can see, that means you can have Kotlin or Java. And this is where our main activity resides. And then this is the whole app right now. So right now, if we run this, it's going to run. And then, then we have the Gradle. I'm not going to get back to that. We talked about this already in the past. So if anybody has, want to get familiar with all this, please, watch the previous presentation. All right. So now let's run this just to make sure that it's running. And it's just compiling. All right, while it's doing that, any questions?
When you build Android apps,
Mm-hmm.
do you, we have like so many different types of Android phones and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you typically target like an Android version, right? Instead of targeting a specific phone, right? Because the phone uses the OS, right? The operating system, Android, right? So you target the Android OS version. Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly, yeah. You target the version because, you don't want to target the phone. And you can't even do that, by the way. You
Okay.
can test on a specific phone, but you
Mhm.
target on the Android version.
Got it.
Yep. All right.
Yes.
So,
So Office, was there like a screen that shows the coverage? I mean, if the developer picks a specific version of Android,
mhm.
remember there was some screen that would show like the percentage of like
Yeah. So in the previous meeting, we had that. So if we go, let me just try to do it real quick and then you'll see. So if I go to new project and then so I'll go here and then as you can see, so I have all these, right? And then you can see like 82%, 81%. That means if you target this, SDK or Android version, you will get about 81% coverage. So that means 81% of all Android users would be like are using the Android 10. And then as you go higher, actually, as you go, no, okay, as you go higher, then the percentage goes down because those are newer phones, right? And then I don't expect the world to jump into buying newer phones every single year. So that's what it is. All right, so let's cancel this. Why am I getting an error? So recommended action, update this project to use the newer SDK. Okay, so it's telling me that I need to use a newer SDK. Which does not make sense, but let's just do it. And then let's compile it again.
Oh, so Office, I'm a bit confused. So the compile SDK, what's the relationship between that and the screen you were just showing? Is it the same thing or?
This one right here.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Android telling me that I am targeting a certain version, right? And then now the SDK, the minimum SDK that I'm using is 34, but they are telling me that I need to use 35.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the project hasn't even like started. It's just the basic stuff. It looks like Angular is forcing people to just use 35 when you target this Android version. Yeah, 34. So they're saying just use compiler SDK 35.
Okay, so there's a okay. So the compile SDK is the same thing as the Android version in a way?
No, so the compiler is the one that compiles the code, and then you have the version right here. So this is the target SDK. So they're saying that if you're targeting SDK 34, it's best to use the Angular compiler 35. That's all they were telling me.
Okay. So is there a way to know the Android version from the compile SDK?
Is there a way to know the Android version from the compiler SDK? They will tell you that, for example, a compiler version can compile up to a certain Android version, but like, ask your question again. So are you saying like a UI or somewhere where you look at the compiler?
No. Earlier you were showing a screen that if this or that Android version is used, it can cover 80% versus target like 13%. But now I see the compile SDK. So what's the relationship between the two?
The compile SDK is, so for example, Java, right? You have the Java virtual machine that is used to compile the language. So the compiler just compiles the language. And then the SDK is the development kit that you need to build an app targeting Android 14. So for example, if there is UI changes or security changes, the SDK will contain that. Now the compiler, if you're using, let's say you're using SDK 14, right? The compiler can compile up to 14 because it knows um all the libraries, whatever that is in there, right? But again, if they bump up something in that API 34 that the compiler doesn't know, then they will force you to upgrade your compiler.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so does it mean that we are able to use the very latest compiler and
Yes.
target the very old Android version?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, that was my confusion. Thanks.
Mhm. Okay, so let me just try to make this much bigger. As you guys can see, the app is running and it's very basic. It's just a plain UI and it says hello world. And then if you guys notice here, this is what it's doing. So we have a text and then the text says hello, and then we have a name that is passed to it, and then Android. I said hello world, hello Android. So used to the hello world stuff. So, and then, so if I change this here to, as is not picking, you up, but your name is just easy to spell.
No problem.
Yeah. And then now, hello Aziz. So pretty basic. All right. So now that we have this, there is a couple stuff that we need to do in order for us to get our app running. So we need to import some libraries. So this is for the OCR. The first thing we're going to do, so we can add it directly, but what I like to do, which is the recommended way to do it, you will go to build, then you will go to edit libraries and dependencies, and then click the add button, the plus, and then library, and then you can just search here. So now if I search, then I have this. And then I always go with the latest version. It's not like you don't have to, but just keep in mind that sometimes some functions are deprecated in certain versions. So 10 years from now, if you're looking at this presentation, just keep in mind that there will be functions that might be deprecated. All right, so click OK, click apply, and then we imported that library. So we're going to import another thing. So this is the coroutine right here for the, go back to, I was in, yeah. and then add more. Again, latest again. Apply. You don't have to keep applying. You can just add all of them at once and apply. But I'm just doing that. And then square up. So this is just a library that will allow us to make HTTP calls. It's really lightweight, and then it's pretty powerful. So
this library is from Square, right?
yeah.
The company. Yeah.
So now let's, and then latest version, apply. And then now we have all the libraries that we need to work with. So let's start building the app. So the first thing we need to do, we need to update the UI. So all this stuff right here, we don't need all this stuff. Let me just make this smaller again. We don't need all these guys. So I'm going to just paste this here. And then as you can see, it's going to, be red because you haven't imported the libraries needed. So if you just hover over it, and then you will see the import thing, and then you can just keep doing that and then import all of them. So I believe it's, yep. And then SP. So this is just for the pixels, the size. And then we're importing this button. Lazy columns. So lazy columns is just a tool that allows you to display list view items. And then, it's pretty simple. And then it's lightweight too. Yep. And that's it. So don't worry about that menu item. It's because we don't have a menu item. So we're going to create that now. So what we want to do, we want to go to activities, and then we're going to create a variable menu item, and then we're going to make it mutable. Why do we make it mutable? Because we want to make sure that whenever we change the menu item, it reflects on anything that actually is using it. So now this grading right here, we don't need it, but we'll get to that shortly. And then, so let's go back to this right here. So the same thing, we would have done it with XML, right? We would have done just the layout, the items, and then we would use a recycle view instead of the lazy column. I think it's lazy column, yeah. Lazy column, yeah. But again, we're not doing XML this time. And then here, so this part, say that again.
I said this looks much better.
Yeah, it does though, to be honest. It's cleaner, no back and forth between XML and the code. All right, so now this is for choosing the images, and we're gonna add this to the project. So what we're gonna do, this needs to go inside the main activity class. So we're just gonna go down here and then paste it. And then we need to import whatever is needed. Again, there's still some stuff missing, so that's fine. We're just gonna add the code as we go. And then, so the next thing we need to do is we need to capture the image. That's the OCR part. So that's also another function that we're going to use. And then just import the stuff that we need. Sure. Yep. All right. And then moving forward, so this part right here, I just want to take some time and explain the reason why we have this, and then what is the purpose, what is the use for it. So once you extract the data, right, when we get there, I will show you guys what the data looks like. You still need to do some some cleanup before you send it to ChatGPT. Otherwise, you will get a bad results, right? Because actually, let me show you guys the menu that we're going to be exporting. I'm going to share my screen real quick, my camera. Where is the meeting? Right here, and then sharing my camera. Can you guys see? Oh, maybe I need to get it closer to me. Yeah. Can you guys see?
Yep.
Okay. That's the menu item. As you guys can see, it's a pizza menu item. It's not.
Yeah, maybe if you stop the screen sharing, it's gonna appear larger. I think.
Okay. Yeah, let me stop it.
Uh,
What about now?
let me see if I can zoom in. Well, yeah, it's better, but it's still.
Let me see. The filter, the screen filter. How do you remove that thing?
Okay, I just zoomed you in. Yeah.
All right, good. All right, so now back to the presentation. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So here is just a quick cleanup that I'm doing. And then I'm gonna add that function, cleanup function. It should be somewhere here. And then now the next thing we want to do is we're going to update the menu item function. And then that's gonna get the ChatGPT response, and then it's gonna update the menu item. And then, as I mentioned, the menu item is mutable, right? So I'm gonna copy this and just paste that down there. And now the processing part. This is where we're sending the data to ChatGPT to, to process and then return us with whatever makes sense. So this is the first function that we're calling. And then as you guys can see, this is where we're leveraging the coroutine thread to make the API call. And then this is just the function to make the call. And this client right here, the OK, HTTP client, that's the one we imported for making the calls. So let's copy this and paste, and time to import some stuff again. So when you're importing, you want to make sure that you import the right stuff. For example, because some of the stuff are coming from multiple, libraries. For example, you have the Java IO exception, and then you have the OK IO exception, right? I know for sure that this code is about, the OK HTTP library, so I'm going to import the exception. It might be compatible with the Java one, but it might not. So don't take the risk. So now request, let's import this guy. Again, same. Let's make sure we import the right stuff. Import. This right here is a class that I created. I'm going to create it again because I wanted to hide my open, AI key. I don't want to just show it, during the presentation. So I'm going to move the code at some point, and then I'm going to add that class and then the key, and then we can start. So importing this.
I was waiting for you to show that key. So
Yeah, no.
Oh, of his question, so does it mean that you hard code the key inside the code that you ship for the app?
No, that's just for the presentation. But
Oh.
no, I wouldn't do that.
Because I was gonna go and say like somebody can download the APK and find it.
Yeah, and just extract it.
I mean, I even think that if you push it, GitHub might tell you that the key is in there. You know, they have that feature now.
Yeah, and then you can ignore certain stuff. It's just that please just don't make the mistake. We all been there. Alrighty. So now what else am I just want to import the stuff that I need before I even move on. So menu item, where's this change count type? Yes. Did I import the wrong lazy thing? Was expected, argument, type mismatch, Kotlin, collection list. Yeah, so I imported the wrong one. I will update that. Just make sure so far everything all the way up here looks fine. Let me import this guy. And then so I need to update this code right here. Any item screen. Oh, I didn't add the create image function yet. Did I not add it? Probably not. Let's see, do I have it here? Okay, another midnighter. All right, let me just add that real quick. Just a quick function. And then let's capture image. All right, so capture image is there. I don't need the padding. Let me just remove it. I'll suppress it for now. There we go. And then image is taking.
I think you can also add the underscore in front to ignore it.
To ignore it. So let me.
No, in front.
Oh, in front of the.
Yeah, before.
Right here?
No, before the I. Before the I.
Oh, okay. Like a prefix.
Yeah.
All right, don't worry about it. I'll just.
I guess not. It works in some other languages, but
probably. So let's go here. Actually, we don't even need a scaffold for it because we have the main view here. There we go. That's it. All right. So some more cleaning to do. Talked about this guy. Is this guy saying So the media, that's the import that I need to import. And then this guy right here. Oh, that's the need to change the. So all right, this is where you can see all your imports. And then what is that lazy thing? Lazy column, and make sure that's the one I need to use. There we go. So, and then now that leaves us with the API key. So just to start with, we're going to try with a broken API key. So, and then if we run this right here, it's running. I'm just going to pull the debugger out too. Any questions so far? All right, good. Means we're all on the same page. All right, so we have a menu, a button to capture the menu. So we click on that button, then we have something that pops up that asks you to take a picture or browse through albums or whatever. Because I'm using the emulator and I didn't, so I'm going to import it from my drive. So I already created and logged in. So when you first open the emulator, right? Actually, you know what? Let me try to switch to another emulator just to show you guys something. So I'm gonna run it on another emulator. And then, Aziz, did you notice that the fonts are different?
Is this an iPhone?
Nah. It's,
No?
it's still an Android, but you know the versions are different. So
Oh,
that's how you test different phone versions, right?
got it.
Because like I created emulators
Oh, I see.
that I have TVs, I have all this stuff, and then I just tested. So if I click here,
Aziz, by the way, that was blasphemy what you said.
Because I asked if it was an iPhone. Actually, you talked about TVs. Like, have you built anything for TVs at all, or
yeah,
like,
I have.
is it different? Like, is it very different than, let's say, a phone or?
To be honest, there's minor difference. Like, you know, when you're building for a TV, there is like the screen, you want to make sure that it's on portrait. There is other stuff like the permissions. There are other permissions that you need to import, but it's really easy. I can even show you something real quick that are built for like TVs as well. And then you will see the difference between that and the Androids. It's so similar. And then here, right? So as you guys can see, I'm trying to access my Google Drive, and then it say you must have at least one Google account. So when you first start your emulator, you're not gonna have a Google account. So you need to go through the settings and do all that, you know, login, which I already did. So I just wanted to mention that so that you guys know that, you know, this is how I was able to link my Google Drive. So back to the other phone. All right. So now I'm gonna go to my drive, and then I already created this thing. And as you guys can see, let me zoom in. This is exactly what I was showing earlier, the menu. Can you guys see? I know it's a bit blurry.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So now let me zoom up, and then I'm gonna click on it, and it crashes. So because there is most likely something that I'm doing wrong. And then time for debugging. Let's see why. Actually, you know what? I'll run it again and see. Run this start GDS. And then structure. And then browse. And then click. All right, here we go. So now let's see. As you guys can see, I made the call to the ChatGPT, and it's telling me that you did not provide an API key. Now, this is also the menu item that was extracted using the OCR. And as you guys can see, it's literally like everything, but it's like they have like they gave it in the way they can read it, right? So you have the lunch special, you have number 5, 8, and all this stuff. And then as you can see, W backslash stands for width, right? For width. So this right here is an addition that I added to the code to make it better, because I don't want ChatGPT to read this. I just want to replace this with width. And then if you see the cleanup part of my code, I'm replacing any W backslash with width and any small W backslash with width. And then so on and so on. So we have the raw data. Now that it's time to use ChatGPT to convert the raw data into something understandable. So I'm going to move this to my other screen just to create the class. Actually, I'm going to create the class, and then I'm going to move it and update. So to create the class, it's super easy. You just go here, new, and then Kotlin. And then it's a data, it's an object, and then I'm going to call it API. What was it? What did I call it again? I just don't want to rename it. So I'm just going to call it whatever I have it here.
I think it's API class.
API, okay. All right. You say API what? Class?
API class.
Okay.
I think all caps API. API all.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then here, time to do my stuff. So I'm going. All right. That's why I hate. What do you call that guy?
It's too late. I've memorized it. It's too late.
Yeah, I hate GitHub Copilot. All right, that's fine. It's just part of the token. You can't do much with it anyway. So I'm gonna save it, and then I'm gonna get back to it. So if you guys can just give me a second to make sure that that's the right token that I'm using. All right, now let me close this, and then let's move it back. Okay, so we have the class that gets the API key. And then, so I set the token to 500 for now, and then let's run it. Actually, I need to run it again. Right, so it's running. Let's select the, nope, wrong device. That's- Yes. Okay. So let me make this bigger. And then we're gonna capture again. So let's select the menu, and then we selected it, and then it's just going to do its thing. It should update by now. Did I not connect the one that updates the? Probably did not. Okay, let me connect the function to update the menu item. The menu items. I am using it. Let's see, did ChatGPT now respond? Making API calls, it did respond. Okay, let's try this again. All right, probably not passing something. Oh, here we go. Okay, and here we are. So as you guys can see, I took an image, uploaded the image, and then we read the menu items, and then we have spaghetti with meatballs and sausage with soda, $10 plus tax, any wrap, and so on. And then you have more items. And that completes the app itself. And it's a basic one, right? As you can see, it's a basic one. But the main thing to keep here is that we uploaded an image, we converted the image into menu items that are text, and then if we want, we can store this in the back in the server somewhere, right, in the database, and then retrieve it when we want to. So what is an application to this tool in the real world? So let's say you are tasked as a data entry, specialist, or data analysis or whatever, right? You are tasked to go around your area and then collect the menus of all the restaurants and all that. So you can go ask them for the menu as a digital version, and then they might tell you that, oh no, actually the way we have this menu, we talk to this person who is a freelancer, and then he built the flyer for us. So we don't have anything digital except the flyer, and it's a picture. So for you to be able to now, take that and then enter the data somewhere, you either have to type it, sit down, read them, type it, or you have to leverage tools that can extract the text from the image and then, convert it into menu items. So if I want it, I can change the format, right? I can change it however I want. And then that allows you to store it somewhere and then call it later. This tool is an extension to the first tool that we're presenting, that that was the mosaic, and that one was the one that allows you to see what menu items, no, what restaurants offer what products in your area, right? Now, this is the business part of it, which allows you to enter the business menu items. That way, the other one will call this, and then you will see, okay, wow, there is a store around me. Let's say I use the other one, and let's say I would like, to know what I can get with a $10 or $12, in my area. So then it will process this and it will say, okay, yeah, you can get a spaghetti meatball, you can get all this stuff. That's pretty much it for it. Any questions?
Just quick question. So, are you saying that for Kotlin, I can just jump straight into that if I want to start, let's say, writing something, or do I have to have like some notion of, like, let's say, Java, for example?
No, you don't need some notions of Java. You can just learn the Kotlin language and then just do it.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be nice. It would be nice if you know both, because sometimes, some developers might tell you, oh, I have this code in Java already, and you can just port it over, but you don't need it.
Okay.
Yeah. What's for sure is that Kotlin is very ergonomic as a language.
Yeah.
So, and also like they took time. Actually, I think I shared it in the Discord earlier, but I'll share it again. There's a documentary of how they came up with Kotlin and how they ended up with in some sort of partnership with Google for Android and so on and so on. So they really took that time to observe, like different ecosystems, how people approach programming, like features in different languages that existed, and then they tweaked it according to that to make it very approachable.
Yeah.
So,
They learn from other people's mistakes.
yes.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Hafiz. So let's suppose you're trying to convert it in JSON and submit it to an API. Would you ask GPT to do it, or you will handle it at the Kotlin level?
That's a good question. I already use GPT to render this. I don't see why I would, write a function just to, to create the what do you call it, the JSON version. I'll just ask ChatGPT to do it. But I also know that ChatGPT is not always accurate, right? Especially when it comes to converting data to JSON, because it's based on your token size. So if I was to provide a smaller token, you will see that this will change things around. So because of that, I would also have like a function that would double check that the data that ChatGPT already converted makes sense. I wouldn't just rely on, GPT to do everything for me. I will, do my due diligence, or I will ask the users to confirm. As you can see, look at this one, any code hoagie. There's no price, there is nothing. So if I was to convert this into JSON, ChatGPT will return this part as a broken JSON, and then I'll have to clean it up.
Yeah, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about for the submission to the API?
For the submission to the API, can you give me more to work with? More specific, please.
Because I assume when you extract the data, you have to maybe enter into the database or like submit it to an API, right?
Yeah.
So usually, do you ask GPT to you provide the endpoint and you ask GPT to do it, or you're going to write the function?
Nope, I will never do that. So yeah, I would just ask GPT to process the data, send it back to me, and then I will use I will make a function to make the API call to send it to the database or to the API.
But why? Because you don't trust GPT ability to do that?
Not that I don't trust GPT ability. I don't trust GPT talking to my APIs directly. What do you call that thing? The Terminator thing, Skyline? Nah, I don't trust robots that much.
Okay. I have another question also. I noticed like when I use ChatGPT, I can upload a file and ask GPT to extract the data. So in your program, is it necessary to use the OCR?
Great question. That's what I was looking for. If nobody asked it, I was going to ask it. So why did I use the OCR? So when you're using GPT to to process images, right? When it comes to making the API call, you can convert the image into a metadata. So you can literally like extract the image data and then send it to ChatGPT. But if you send the image through the ChatGPT endpoint, GPT will not recognize it. You can send like a raw image. You have to either extract the data, you have to convert it into like some kind of data that you can send to GPT, right? And then that's why I use the OCR to first extract it as a text and then just send it.
So when they say that, I heard the OpenAI people talking about I don't know, something vision, GPT vision or something like that. What do they mean by that? I thought that was the ability for the LLM, or how do you want to call it, to be able to view and analyze things.
Yeah. So if you go to the ChatGPT thing UI, right? So let's do something real quick because that's the research that I did. So
No, I think there's a confusion here. Like based on the model that you invoke, it may or may not be able to process images, because I saw you using
3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
3.5 cannot do images.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to stay, I mean, if you want to deal with images, they also have other APIs than the GPTs. For example, there's one called DALI, DAEE3.
Yeah.
This one deals specifically with images, right? And then and then after the GPT-3s, like the 4.0 and more, those ones are multi-modals. So they don't just do text, they do text and images, and I think audio as well. So it really depends on the one that you invoke for the capabilities.
Okay, so that is partially true, right? But when you're making the API calls, so as of my research so far, right, you can make the API call to ChatGPT and pass the image. So as you can see, people are saying, no, you cannot pass the image. You have to convert the image into something. I'm actually looking for another conversation thread that talks about how you actually convert the data into which browser is
it base 69?
Mhm.
Is
Yeah,
it converting
yeah,
base
exactly.
69, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
How to
69 is base 64, no?
Oh, is it 464?
all right, I will find it. It's definitely base encoding. It's encoding
Yes.
Yeah.
now, whatever it is, 64 or
Okay, Bennett, I heard you.
It's base 64. You can encode it to base 64
64, yes.
and pass it.
Thanks for the correction, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Somebody's paying attention. Yeah. So technically, yeah, I can't find the thing that I found earlier, but it's based, encoding.
The GPT models only deal with text.
Yeah.
So the conversion to base 64 is basically turning the image into a text blob.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Then you can send it. Yeah.
So now here is another question. Oh, actually, let me see if somebody will ask that question. Any other question?
Okay, I have a few more.
Okay, go ahead. Shoot.
Okay, the first one I've noticed, like right now, if I take my iPhone and every text, if I press long in it, sometimes it extracts the text. What is the technology used for that?
Depends on what phone you have.
iPhone.
I can't talk about that. It's
Yeah,
their own image recognition tool. Let's just leave it to that.
Yeah, it's some sort. I wouldn't say it's OCR per se, but it's one. They use at least a few models for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
because
OCR has been around for a long time, right? Before the whole fiesta of ChatGPT. You know, they've been processing images for a long time. So, you know,
Yeah,
there's quite a few.
yes, and it's how can I say it? I think OCR in a way describes this action of extracting information from an image, right?
Mhm.
The part that does the extraction, it can be there are several models available to do that.
Yeah. They even have open source models that can do it. I
Yes.
just don't know what iPhone uses.
Yes, maybe they build their own, or maybe they reuse one that already exists. I mean, this part for image processing, a lot of it has been solved. Like people are aware of the models that work best,
Uh-huh.
you know, for processing images. I'm not aware of a new one that was created recently,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
you know. So they moved on to image generation because processing the image itself is almost a solved problem.
Yeah,
They're more focused now on how to generate images, like the reverse. So,
that's true. That's true.
Can the, I don't know if I would say ACR, but the solution, can you extract images as well, like a logo?
Using OCR. No,
Using the
OCR is
solution you
not
built
used for extracting images. It's used for
with text only.
processing images and extracting text and, you know, numbers.
Okay.
Any other questions? And yeah, can you guys give me 1 second, please? Just 1 quick second.
yeah, so Brunel, so what you were just asking, I think there's a very popular library called OpenCV, and this one can extract shapes out of an image.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you've seen sometimes there are some demos with like surveillance cameras,
Exactly.
you know, and then it highlights it draws these rectangles around people's faces, you know.
Yeah. I think we used it in one of the projects, but I didn't know that they were able to extract information from
Yeah,
videos or pictures.
yeah. So people can code it, you know.
Yeah.
So you can code it for like extract. I mean, recognizing faces and stuff like that. But you can code it for other shapes as well.
Yep. So here is a question for you guys. Why did I choose to actually use ChatGPT here while I already extracted the text content, and then I could just write a function, you know, to handle that in the more efficient way so that I don't have to pay money to ChatGPT?
From what I've noticed, it seems like it put the information together in a nicer way. I mean,
Okay, anybody else?
Can you repeat your question again? Like, why did you use ChatGPT versus to do the parsing versus writing a function to do it? Is that what you asked?
Yeah. Because as you guys can see, I already had the menu items, right? I had everything I needed, and it's structured in a way that is actually understandable. Why not just create a function, you know, to parse this into what I'm looking for instead of asking ChatGPT to do it?
Well, it
Yeah,
depends. How many menus will you have in the future?
Say that again.
Like different restaurants have different menus, right?
Hey.
Different format. Right?
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Thank you.
So yeah, so you basically, my understanding is that you let ChatGPT do the parsing of whatever menu you give it to, and then you can get the data on the other side, as opposed to writing a function for every different combinations of restaurants you can find. And that's, I don't think, even possible. So that's my guess.
So yep, and it's worth the money squeeze, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why. Okay. Any other questions? All right, I'll take no as the silence as a no. So thank you so much, everyone. This completes the presentation. If
Alright.
anything, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. You know, and I'm sure we're here to help.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Thank you, Hafiz.
Yep.
Hafiz, that was
You-
that was nice.
We didn't
You
do
didn't
4
make
hours today.
Yeah, I did great, right?
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, Happy. So,
Yep.
Thanks. So what's the next presentation from you, Hafiz?
The next one will be multi platform, no, cross platform using Kotlin versus Java.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe as a question for the group, are you guys interested in learning more features from Kotlin, or like even beyond Android?
I would like to see a desktop app built with whatever technology makes it sense.
Yeah, I think that's what as Afis just mentioned, like the cross-platform, multi-platform Kotlin.
Yeah.
It has that inside. Yeah, because I mean it's a tool, it's a language being used for a lot of things, just like Java and some others. You know, so people build APIs, people build Discord bots, people build a whole bunch of stuff. So
Yeah.
yep.
Okay, we can try to build a desktop app with it just to show, how it works. Maybe we can even build this same tool, for desktop.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or point of sale.
POS.
Yes, we can build. Yeah, if you could do a POS system, that would be good.
I think we already have that. We already have a point of sale that we built in. Did we build it in Android? No, we built it in Java. So what's the point of rebuilding that big thing in Kotlin?
For
Because
that.
that's a big one. If I know what you're talking about, that's a big app that we built, and I don't think for the sake of presenting, I want to do that.
Yeah. Maybe you can show us also material design.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me take notes. So material designs. Next presentation. So we have a desktop app using Kotlin, material design. Okay. What else?
Okay, sure. We can add to the menu then.
Well, one more and that's it.
Yeah, so maybe we can explore that thing we were discussing earlier about like converting the images into base 64, then
Okay.
to an LLM to see what happens.
Base 64 encoding.
Yeah, because I think what's for sure, like the reason why this is possible is because the image itself, like, okay, so if we talk about the pixels in the image, right?
Mhm.
Those are just numbers, to represent the color and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? So, so when we convert it to base 64,
Mhm.
it's nothing but
Yeah, it's just a text representation of the image.
yeah, it's the same thing that's encoded in the file for pretty much. So since it's text, then okay, so let me back up a little bit. When we do image processing, right, whether it's OCR or OpenCV or any of the other models that exist, one of the first things that they do is to turn these pixels and whatnot back into numbers, and then they do some calculations over it.
Yeah.
So the models themselves don't see an image, they just see text and numbers.
Yeah. One cool thing that I'm thinking about, but that will be for long term, it's to actually take an image, extract the base 64 and then recompile it inside a text format. You know what I mean? So that way, let's say if somebody wants to text an image, right, and then they don't have internet, they can just send the text, and then the other person that will receive the text will, be able to view it as a picture, using the app. That's what I'm planning to do. It will
Except
be a
that,
project,
that text message will be huge.
yeah, it will be a big one. Yeah.
It will be huge. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So in the menu, we have desktop app using Kotlin, we have material design, and we have converting images to base 64 encoding to send to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Or DALI, or DALI.
DALI, okay.
Yeah, or one of the two. So.
Okay. Got that. All right. We do have a hard stop.
Okay.
But if anything, please feel free to reach out.
Yes.
Cool.
So
Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Hafiz.
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
weekend all. Bye.
All right.
So,
Peace out.
yeah, bye.